Is this your only ID?
You think I would tell you if I knew it? Of course I'm not going to tell you. Well, first of all, let's put this in perspective.
I don't like you sucking around bothering our citizens. I don't like your jerk-off name. I don't like your jerk-off face. I don't like your jerk-off behavior. And I don't like you, jerk-off.
I mean, it's not you. Maybe I can make it sound like all of a sudden, my God.
Hey, lady, yo, bite, don't come, you gotta bite. Hey, no. Don't wait.
Very often expressing myself, except now I have to explain why we have chosen this theme. But you never have heard from me political statements or economic statements which are, let's say, in any way influencing political personalities.
Oh, really?
What we are very proud of now, the young generation, like Prime Minister Trudeau, President of Argentina and so on, that we penetrate the cabinets. So yesterday I was at a reception for Prime Minister Trudeau, and I know that half of this cabinet, or even more half of this cabinet, are for our actually young global leaders of the World Economic Forum. But you never have heard from me political statements or economic statements which are, let's say, in any way influencing political personalities.
The lie detector determined that was a lie.
Giving families some real breathing room. And the big reason is falling gas prices. My administration took action to get oil onto the market and bring down prices. Now gas is down more than $1.70 from its peak. That adds up to a typical family with two vehicles, to a savings of $180 a month, every single month, that stays in their pockets instead of being spent at the pump. Food inflation is slowing as well. Last month we saw the smallest increase in food prices in almost 2 years. It all adds up to a real break for consumers, real breathing room for families, and more proof that my economic plan is working.
Are you fucking retarded?
Yes.
The border crisis, something that she was charged with taking responsibility of a couple of years ago. Her thoughts on where it stands now.
The border, by many people's account, is not secure. By Border Patrol agents who are there telling the media they just don't believe it is. Do you believe the border is secure now?
I will tell you something. One of our highest priorities is to ensure that we have a secure border, and that is what we are doing. But we also need Congress to act.
That lying bitch!
Cochise County Sheriff Mark Daniels wants the VP to turn her energy towards our southern border.
You come to a border state where you have border communities that were addressing border issues every day, the tragedies of it, the sadness of it, and we can't get our vice president to even acknowledge it while she's in our state or whether she's in Washington, D.C.
President Biden appointed Harris his border czar in 2021, but she has not spent any time at the U.S.-Mexico border in Arizona.
It's frustrating because it's insulting to all of us that wear a badge, our community folks that live in America, and our Border Patrol agents that we work side by side with. So
We have a secure border in that is a priority for any nation, including ours and our administration.
Wow! Has the planet gone mad? I think justice denied.
So, how'd you like the game yesterday? Pretty weird, right? I thought the same thing. Why did you walk in separately from your family? They look scared as shit. They look like they don't know what the fuck's going on, to be honest. And you come in with shades on, ski mask, security out the yin-yang. I've never seen that done before. With a Secret Service, you didn't have time to wave at your fans. Normally that's what DeMar Hamlin would have did. He has a charity for the children, always giving back. Very photogenic. Very photogenic. In his first public appearance, he's hidden. Nobody got a picture. Nobody got a video. Every angle's from behind him. It doesn't make sense. I say that to say this. I can't confirm Damar Hamlin is no longer with us. But I can tell you one thing. It's not looking good. It's not looking good at all. You say he's on oxygen. Damar Hamlin is in the building. But nobody's seen him. Nobody's seen him clapping in the box, skybox. Hoodie on, mask on, still in the skybox. Whole thing's off. You weren't even playing in the game yesterday. So why weren't you with your family? What was there to hide? But this will be my last video on this. Hopefully a lot of you guys are awake now and see what the fuck's going on. Everything isn't what it seems. Pay attention.
Yeah, the world ain't what it seems, is it, Gunny?
No, sir.
You keep that in mind. The moment you think you got it figured, you're wrong.
You don't have to go to hell. You're in hell. This is hell. This is hell. This is hell.
Because democracy basically means government by the people, of the people, for the people. But the people are retarded.
Then strangled them, and finally dismembered their bodies.
Right.
Then do
And homelessness and all that.
And now, the voice you've been waiting for.
There is a secret song at the center of the world, and its sound is like razors through flesh. I'm here to turn up the volume.
I'm kind of retarded.
Have you ever heard the saying, beauty is only skin deep, but ugly is to the bone? Well, allow me to present to you Exhibit A. But she didn't always look like a cross between the Wicked Witch of the West and Mr. Ed. The years have been very unkind to her, and some people have speculated that it's because she sold her soul, and based on her despicable personality and authoritarian leadership style, I can see why some people might make that assumption. This is the lady that oversaw a total ban of guns in New Zealand, a China-like zero COVID policy where they locked down the entire fucking country because of literally one case. Not to mention turning the unvaxxed into second-class citizens. And when she was even asked point blank, isn't this kind of making people who don't take it second-class citizens? She goes, oh no, yeah, that's exactly what we're doing. But personally, I think her transformation from fairly attractive to fugly has more to do with drug use. Anybody who's ever seen somebody on copious amounts of cocaine would immediately recognize it in this video. That is the look of somebody who is zooted out of their goddamn mind. But either way, who really cares? She's going bye-bye. This past week, she announced that she's resigning. And most of New Zealand reacted with...
And so today I'm announcing that I will not be seeking re-election. And that my term as Prime Minister will conclude no later than the 7th of February.
No, but seriously, she is very, very unliked. I think her approval rating is like 21%. And with an election coming up later this year, she saw the writing on the wall and decided it was time to get out now. The good news is, people won't have to look at her ugly fucking face anymore. The bad news is, she's almost certainly gonna get replaced by somebody just as cuntish. But at least we won't have to look at that face or hear that annoying voice anymore. A small win for all of humanity. And news also broke this week that Alec Baldwin is gonna be facing involuntary manslaughter charges.
Hashtag sorry, not sorry. Not sorry.
And the byline of this New York Times article is so hilariously stupid. The manslaughter charges Alec Baldwin faces after a fatal onset shooting revived questions about who's responsible for gun safety on film productions. We are not actual cowboys, an actor noted. What a dumbass thing to say. Oh, how can you expect us to be safe with guns? We're not actual cowboys. You have questions for who's responsible for gun safe. Well, whoever's holding the gun would be the primary person at any given moment that's responsible for the safety. And these are the people that just love to bloviate about what the gun laws in this country should be. Meanwhile, they can't be bothered with how to safely learn how to handle one themselves. Everything's got to be someone else's responsibility, right? And it is probably unlikely that Baldwin is actually going to do any time, or that dipshit armorer that's also supposed to be getting charged with involuntary manslaughter. They're probably going to offer him a deal, and it's likely that he won't even see the inside of a jail cell. But in the off chance that he does, I hope he takes these sage words of wisdom to heart.
Watch out for your cornhole, bud.
Please, consider liking, subscribing, sharing this video, or leaving a comment. Because every time you do nothing, Vladimir Putin will shoot another puppy. It was an interesting week last week in Davos, Switzerland, and a very profitable week for the high-priced prostitutes that flew into town. From what I understand, Bill Gates and a number of other people who were supposed to be attending decided at the last minute not to. But of course, you had the usual suspects like John Kerry and Al Gore, blabbering on and on about climate change. You gotta love people with the carbon footprint of a small country telling us how the peons of the world need to reduce our standard of living to save the planet because the fucking oceans are boiling.
There's another divide, increasingly, between those who are old enough to be in positions of power and the young people of this world. Greta Thunberg was just arrested in Germany. I agree with her efforts to stop that coal mine in Germany. Young people around the world are looking at what we're doing. They look at the World Bank and they say, oh, you've got a climate denier in charge of the World Bank, so why are you surprised that the World Bank is completely failing to do its job? What do I say to these young activists that I train around the world when they come to me and they say, are you okay with putting the CEO of one of the largest oil companies in the world in as the president of the COP? There's a lot of blah, 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 as Greta says. There are a lot of words and there are some meaningful commitments, but we are still failing badly.
And with any luck, you'll continue to fail. I remember all those predictions that you made about 20 years ago about how there wasn't going to be any snow anymore in Washington, D.C., and how 10 years ago the Arctic was supposed to be completely ice-free. How many of your predictions have to go wrong before people stop listening to you? Just hearing him talk is like nails on a chalkboard to me. There was also this clip that's been circulating around of Albert Bourla, the Pfizer CEO, supposedly saying that he had this goal to reduce the world's population by 50%.
I think that it's really a fulfillment of a dream that we had together with my leadership team when we started in 19. The first week we met in January of 19 in California and to set up the goals for the next 5 years. And one of them was by 2023 we will reduce the number of people in the world by 50%. I think today this dream is becoming reality.
Now, the only problem with this is it's bullshit. Somebody edited the clip quite well, I might add, but in the original clip he said they would reduce the number of people in the world who can't afford their medicines by 50%. But somebody cut out the who cannot afford our medicines. So anybody sharing that clip or talking about it needs a good smack in the side of the head. Don't be so gullible. Do better. That kind of bullshit just gives discrediting power to all those who would try to paint the WEF as some kind of benevolent force that's trying to save us from ourselves. Instead, you should be pointing out them talking about how they expect us to have hate speech laws here in the US, kind of like what they do in the UK already, where if you post something mean on social media, the cops will actually come to your house and arrest you for it. Maybe not even something you wrote, just retweeting a meme that somebody gets offended by, and boom, you're charged with a crime. Or how about the 15-minute city idea? Also in the UK, this is a pilot program they're trying to start up where you have this residential area and everything that you need is within a 15-minute walk or bicycle ride, so you don't need a car anymore. And if you want to travel outside of your little district, well, you can do that up to 100 times a year. Anything past that, you'll get fined for. And of course, this will be enforced with facial recognition, tracking through your smartphone, all different kinds of high-tech surveillance grid type bullshit. There's all kinds of creepy, dystopic things that these people are actually saying without us having to fucking make stuff up. You also had the finance minister from Saudi Arabia saying that, you know, maybe we'll start settling our trade with other currencies beside the US dollar. Now, this is something that should be major news. It was our deal to provide security for Saudi Arabia in exchange for them only using US dollars. It keeps the US dollar valuable. It's been so overinflated that it should have crashed a while back, but the fact that we basically force these major countries to keep using it is what keeps it worth something. We just don't talk about it because we like to pretend that it's not the case. Like, oh yeah, we invaded Iraq because of WMDs. It has nothing to do with the fact that he was selling oil for euros to different countries. Or Libya, we sent the CIA in there to back Islamic rebels, overthrow the country, but it had nothing to do with the fact that he was selling oil for gold and trying to make an African currency that was backed by gold. That's just a coincidence. See, this is what the agenda really is. The Anglo-American establishment, central banking cartels want to have a crash so spectacular, and then that will help usher in the age of the digital money, where everything can be tracked, traced, scanned, and especially taxed. That crash is going to be like nothing nobody alive has ever seen before, and it'll probably be accompanied by that cyber pandemic that Klaus promised us, as well as wars all over the place. As for exactly when the hammer's gonna fall, it's hard to say. A lot of people thought they couldn't keep the bubble going this long, but the longer they can keep that bubble going, the bigger the burst is gonna be. But with what we got boiling up in Eastern Europe with the Russians, and then with the Chinese between Taiwan and a bunch of other countries, it might be getting ready to happen any day now. And you'll know it when it happens.
How will I know?
Because all fucking hell is gonna break loose.
I just hope you're all doing what you can to ride out the storm. And since I mentioned Russia, this past week the Ukrainians started saying that they had intelligence on an invasion that was about to happen from Belarus, as well as out of the Donetsk, and from the Crimea. And all of this makes a lot of sense, so I don't have to take this with too big of a grain of salt. But there's also rumors and rumblings about how the mobilization that Russia's quietly doing is much bigger than people realize, and how they're doing everything they can to stock their civil defense shelters like they expect fucking Armageddon to kick off any minute now.
Allegedly!
And in one final bit of news that's been spectacularly ignored, ever since around last May, there's been a sort of Chaz-style autonomous zone that was set up on the southeast side of Atlanta. The police there were proposing a $90 million police training facility in this woodland area. So you had a bunch of Antifa move into it and start setting up hammocks and tree houses and trying to do whatever they can to thwart the plan. They've been calling these people Atlantifa and Treehouse Antifa, and well, last week things kind of boiled over when Georgia State Patrolman got shot by one of these protesters. But he ended up getting shot and killed, and then they had a weekend of fiery but mostly peaceful protest.
To protest what happened on Wednesday here, where I mean, they were handing out that vehicle still up in flames here over at Andrew Young and Peachtree. And if you take a look over here, if you pan over, I want to show you. This is what they were handing out at that protest. So it was a largely peaceful protest where they just wanted what they're calling justice for so sorry. And right now, you'll see, basically, they want justice for him after the shooting that happened when the Atlanta police and the different law enforcement agencies were raiding the forest over there to try to basically clear out the forest after everything that was going on.
You would think having the corporate multi-billion-dollar media industry bend over backwards to not speak too harshly about you might make these kids a little suspicious as to who they're actually working for and whose interests they're serving. But then again, logic and critical thinking doesn't seem to be in their wheelhouse, does it? And it seems like they've been recruiting disillusioned youth with no future faster than they're getting killed or arrested. Now, on top of everything else we have to contend with, there's gonna be more and more of these homeless ninja crackheads. So my final advice is stay as well armed as possible and keep your head on a swivel. Stay alert, stay alive. Sláinte.
All I have in this world is my thoughts and my words, and I don't break them for no one. You understand? So say good night to the bad guy. 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 Come on. Come on. Come on. So say good night to the bad guy. 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 So say good night. So say good night. So say good night to the bad guy. So say good night to the bad guy. So say good night. So say good night. So say good night to the bad guy. I told you, don't fuck with me. 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 You stupid fuck. Look at you now. Look at you now.